Fade is one of the best initiators to climb ranked with, since she will let you do things like this. To master Fade in ranked, you need to understand that you need to use her utility selfishly. In terms of team play, Fade's kit isn't as good as Sky or Silva's, but as a solo climbing agent, it's perfect. Fade is a recon agent and her main purpose is to provide information for her team, but her kit allows her to play more aggressively. This is why you'll hear a lot of people refer to Fade as a recon duelist. To teach you how to properly play this recon duelist to her maximum potential, we're going to be breaking down how to play Fade at an advanced level on both attacking and defense. Starting with attacking, you must understand Fade's attacking playstyle. You must play aggressively with this agent. As I said before, she's basically a recon duelist, so you need to use her utility selfishly and be with your duelist on the front lines, making first contact with the enemy. If you find yourself getting a lot of first bloods as Fade, great, because you're essentially doing your job. You see, her utility allows you to take space on a map incredibly easy. And the cool thing about her utility is that it allows you to play off of her utility, so that way you don't have to worry about only being able to dog in for your teammates like Sky. With Fade, you can use your prowlers for yourself and follow your prowler. With Fade, you can throw your haunt ability at a particular angle and then swing off of that ability. By adopting the aggressive playstyle as Fade, you no longer have to worry about baiting duelists because essentially you are a duelist yourself. By simply implementing the aggressive Fade playstyle, you will see your first blood participation metric skyrocket on Insight, which is available to the public right now. Now, at the beginning of attack, you'll often find your team playing default or setting up for an execution onto a certain bomb site. During this time, you want to make sure that you are specifically using your seize and haunt ability to clear angles and corners in certain areas on the map. If you want to clear a general part of the map, then you want to use your haunt ability, so that way you can scan enemies that are nearby. If you want to clear a particular corner, make sure to throw your seize ability because it'll tell you if an enemy is in the corner or not by latching its arm to the enemy or by just disappearing, indicating that there's no one there. You don't want to use your prowlers too much when playing default because your prowler is the most aggressive part of your kit. So with that being said, I guess we can lead into our next topic, which is executing as Fade. You particularly want to save this part of your utility for executions. This is because your prowler is not the best utility to clear angles or corners with. It's best to use it when entering, so that way you have something to follow behind and you can think of it as a Captain America shield. You see, the prowler is going to absorb the enemy's bullets, and so the enemy has been able to destroy the prowler, which allows you to hide behind the prowler and eliminate the enemies since your bullets go right through the prowler. Once your team has set up for execution on a particular bomb site, you typically are the player who needs to initiate the countdown when to execute on a site. You see, even though you are a recon duelist, you're still an initiator at heart, meaning you control when your team goes out onto the site through recon information that you can provide. Before executing, one thing that you should do is make sure that your haunt ability has been regenerated. As soon as it's been regenerated, you can initiate the countdown and throw your haunt ability at a high angle that will be able to scan enemies who are positioned on the bomb site. Once your haunt has been thrown and it either gets a scan or it doesn't, you want to immediately throw your prowler to lead the way. Throw your prowler in the general direction of where you expect an enemy to be. You've been playing Valorant long enough to expect where enemies are going to be holding the bomb site from. For example, if we were attacking the A site on Ascent, I'd expect an enemy to either be Dice or Gen. Do not waste your utility and just throw them away without following up with them. Remember what I said earlier, you need to use your utility selfishly and your prowler as a Captain America shield. If you end up getting a bite as you're executing on a site, be careful not to get too close to the enemy because your prowler doesn't completely blind them. It nearsights them, meaning they can see anything that's within 5 meters in front of them. So if you're spraying at the blinded enemy, they can essentially see the dust from your weapon being fired if you're within 5 meters. So if you have a Raze or any other teammates who have mollies, make sure that they are aware that you're throwing your Prowler, so that way when your Prowler does get a bite and that particular enemy is in a close quarter combat area, they can throw their molly rather than just taking the close range fight, which essentially defeats the purpose of your Prowler blinding the enemy anyway. Another thing to keep in mind as you're executing is if you have not used your Seize ability, then you could consider throwing it in a common area where you would expect an enemy to be holding the bomb site. But also understand that you don't have to waste your entire utility for the site execution. You should save your Seize or a Prowler for a post plan. You see, if you're in a post plan situation as Fade, you're basically as good as a Brimstone with a Molly, Viper with lineups, or even a Killjoy with lineups, because your utility is going to feed you information whether the enemies are on the bomb or off. The utility is also going to allow you to prevent the enemies from being able to push you. I'd like to highlight what I did in the opening clip that we showed you at the beginning of the video. In this clip, you can see that I used my Seize to stop the Sky and Cypher from pushing me after I was flashed and concussed by the Sky's dog. They both got caught in my Seize, and because my Seize ability decays the enemy, I was able to easily get a nice spray transfer onto both enemies, winning us the round. If I did not have my Seize ability in this situation, I could have just as easily used my Prowler ability, so that way Sky would get bitten by my Prowler, which would buy me some time to get unblinded and fight the Sky equally. Alright, so now you should be a master at attack with Fade, but now it's time to get into the defensive side of things. We need to talk about how you need to play Fade on defense. With Fade on defense, it's almost similar to how you want to play on attack, except you want to take more of a backseat. Rather than using your utility selfishly, you want to use it for your duelist and then assist your duelist after you have used your utility. What I mean by this is rather than throwing your Haunt and then choosing to peek an angle to where you expect the enemies to be, you should instead throw your Haunt ability so that way your duelist makes first contact. Then, once you have thrown your ability, you can run up to join your duelist in the current fight. So essentially, you still want to take fights. We're just not going to be the first ones to make contact. At the very start of the round, make sure you understand what you want to do. 9 times out of 10, it is a good idea to take some sort of map control. During this time, you want to coordinate with a duelist and use your Haunt ability to give that duelist information whether the area is clear or not, so that way you guys can establish control in that general area. If you aren't doing this as Fade, you're essentially throwing by giving the enemies free map control, and you're also denying your team crucial information as to what's safe and what is not. This will prevent your teammates from being surprise attacked by the enemies. Another play that you can make as Fade at the start of your defensive rounds is using your Seize early where the enemies have pushed before. An insane play that you can do is a Seize A main on Ascent and allow Raze to satchel towards the enemies with a rocket, and then boom, you just gave your teammate a Twitter clip. It's important that you find and experiment with Fade to see how you and your teammates can take early map control but never be afraid to fight or be aggressive as Fade. Now, let's say you've gotten the necessary information and you want to hold the site because you know that the enemies will attack a certain bomb site. You want to position yourself in a safe location on the bomb site or just outside of the bomb site, and be ready for as soon as the enemies execute, you're able to deploy your utility and you and your teammates can peek off of your utility, getting a few kills. It's very common for the enemies to smoke off certain points to prevent you from being able to see them enter into the bomb site. Well, a good counter as Fade that we can use is as soon as these smokes go down and when we hear the enemies starting to execute, we can then throw our Haunt ability to scan enemies by throwing it in a location where it will be difficult for the enemies to shoot. Then spray those enemies through the smoke or any penetrable walls once they are scanned. But if you have a teammate who is on site and needs extra help, you can also throw the Seize on a timing into a choke point and can completely stop an execution if you catch 1 or 2 players with it. We can also do this to commence the third part of being a defender, which is retaking a bomb site. Similar to attack, you want to think of retaking as an execution, so you want to initiate and be the person to count down the start of the retake. A good thing to always do is tell your team this: hey guys, I'm going to throw my haunt, then we push out the smoke and we fight. During your retake, be ready to use your haunt and prowler combination. At this point, you don't want to just waste your seize ability unless you know an enemy is in a given corner, or when you are about to tap or hold the defuse and you want to keep the enemies at bay to allow yourself to get the defuse to halfway. The main pieces of utility that you will be using on your retakes are your haunt and prowler ability. Also, your ultimate ability, if you have that at your disposal, whenever you are retaking site, use it. You want to make sure that you guys are going quickly without worrying about making noise with your stomping, because essentially the enemies that get caught within your ultimate ability are completely deaf and their health is decayed. Now, as you play this agent more and more, you'll start noticing little tricks that will help you with your own strengths and weaknesses, allowing you to mold them into developing your own playstyle. But if you thought this video was a banger, check out this next video. I'll see you all there, and well, deuce everyone.